project from start to finish. Anthony, I tell you what, this thing, it was so fun to build. We did a lot in it was literally what,
Yeah,
6 months?
We built this truck in 6 months.
Yeah.
From the ground up, from the bare frame, ripped it completely down, did the rear suspension, did the front suspension, and dropped this nasty 632 in.
Yeah, we got this truck. It had already had some modifications done to it. It was a typical project truck, but what we wanted to do is kind of take it to the finish line on modifying it. And I always loved the 454 SS trucks. Growing up, but they just didn't have a lot of power. And so the vision on this was kind of key off that, but let's make it make it cool in the sense of
make it
good
way
power
cooler than they did from the factory.
Yeah,
and I think we achieved that with this truck.
right. So we did a lot with this thing as far as like any project. First thing you got to do is strip it down to the frame, inspect the frame, see what you got to work with. That's what we had to do. We tore it all apart. Luckily, we tore it all apart and the frame was actually in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of issues with it. It was already, the truck had already been lowered. They kind of butchered the C-notch a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, other than that, it was a pretty solid foundation to start with.
Yeah, but you don't really know until you get it tore apart where you see waves in it or if it had been buckled somewhere or another. So we got lucky starting out with a good frame, a good foundation right there. Yeah. And then, from that point on, we started building it up. With the suspension components, we definitely wanted to get it sitting low.
Yeah, I think we achieved that.
Yeah, yeah. So that C-notch in the back, with that, it already had a C-notch on it, but it was kind of hastily done, some rough edges and stuff. So, we got rid of that C-notch and put this one in from Ride Tech here, and the kit went together really nice.
Yeah, and it's a bolt-in kit, so there wasn't any welding we had to do.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times people say, "Well, why didn't you weld that in or whatnot?" You can if you want to, but this was a bolt-in kit. We wanted to do it the way the manufacturer intended. But if you want to weld them, go right ahead and weld them in. So.
No, but a bolt-in kit, like it makes it much easier. Then you don't have to have welders. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, we took that with the frame. We did the suspension work, put that on there. We got the control arms up front. It did the coilover deal up front. We were able to cut the factory spring pockets out of the bottom of it there. Yeah. And then once we got all the modifications to the frame done, then we went and took it and had it sandblasted and powder coated and made it pretty at that point. Because that's when you go to build a project, you can build something and have it ready to go with each step as you go, and you'll kind of run into some roadblocks. Or you can go into like a mock-up stage where you put everything together, make sure it all jives, it all works right.
It's always a good idea to do that, because you can run into stuff where you got to go recut it, you got to re-weld it, and after you don't want to be doing that after you do powder coat or paint or any of that stuff.
So when it comes time for final assembly, that's the fun part on final assembly, bolting the stuff together.
When it's all pretty.
Yeah, it's all pretty, and you're doing those final touches. So if you do that pre-assembly, that kind of mock-up, that takes a lot of the headaches out of it beforehand.
You're still going to have headaches.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
But at least you hopefully have crossed all your T's and dotted the I's.
Yeah.
And it'll go together smoothly.
And another thing too is, we're here making TV shows and we build stuff along the way. So we've got schedules and we got to move pretty quick. So there was a lot of things that we could have done to make it nicer. Sure, there's a lot of we can make it really nice. That's just time. And we have to kind of play both sides of it on, okay, well, what's can we do to make it cool, but we can also, not spend a lot of time, investing on it, because we still got production we have to do as far as making shows, making content, and keeping things rolling. So yeah, we had a lot of questions of, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, we agreed that would be nice and be cool, but we have to at some point cut our losses there as far as time to make a project. And at the end of the day, I think we nailed this thing as far as what it can be. Sure, you can always modify stuff. So, but so we'll go around the truck a little bit. Obviously, the key point is the engine. The 632 SS for the truck here. This engine, 632 cubic inch, big block Chevy. Now, right off the bat, we get
It's not a GM Performance 632. So
right.
It's a completely different engine. It's actually a blueprint block.
Yeah. So a lot of times, in the last couple of years, General Motors has come out with their 632 big block. It's a completely different engine. It has completely different cylinder heads. The block is different, the intake manifold. But that's gotten a lot of press and a lot of attention. So when we say 632 SS, the truck, people automatically want to tie those two together. Well, it's the same cubic inches, but it's a different engine there. Yeah. So, when they see that, oh, that 632 the GM makes, it's got 1,000 horsepower. Well, yes, that one does, but this is not the same engine. Now, can this engine make 1,000 horsepower? Yes. Pat and Frankie, they've had this engine in a different form where they had, it was a solid roller cam.
Solid roller, 15-to-1 compression.
Yeah, higher compression.
And it made like 1,100 horsepower.
Yeah, on race gas. Yeah. So it has the potential, that foundation there, to make the potential for that power level. Now, what we wanted to do is make it more street friendly. So it's a hydraulic roller. You don't have to go adjusting the valves, every so often. The compression's down. They pulled some compression out of it so we can put 93 octane in it and it not be out there pinging itself to death. So that's why the power numbers are different from the GM one and this one. So we've had a lot of people say, well, that GM one makes 1,000 horsepower. Yeah, that one does, but that's not what this is.
I mean, you could take this blueprint block, you can make 1,000 horsepower pretty easily. But we wanted something that a little more like street friendly, something we could almost daily drive, and I think you actually can daily drive this truck.
Yeah, and another thing I like to tell people, especially at the shows and whatnot, a 5.3 LS engine is a pretty common engine out there. Well, this is almost 2 of those engines when you think about the cubic inches. A 5.3 is what, 325 cubic inches. So, I mean, we're really close to having 2 LS engines in this one right there as far as cubic inches there. So when you start thinking about it like that, like, oh wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So,
and I mean, this thing's awesome to drive. It drives great, and it's rowdy.
Yeah,
it is a rowdy truck. It sounds good. I mean, it's the complete package.
Yeah. Now with the exhaust, so there are companies that make headers for a big block in these trucks, but I think they're like 1 3/4 primary tube diameter.
1 7/8 maybe.
Yeah. And that would have been a real choking point for this truck breathing. So we wanted to build, we wanted something with a bigger primary tube. So that's why we went ahead and made our own headers.
So 2-inch primaries.
Yeah.
All stainless, 304.
And even at the end of the day, a 2-inch primary is kind of small, so it's kind of restrictive. I think if you could put a 2 1/4 on there, you would open it up even more. But once again, that makes it a little bit harder to build with that real estate down there.
It's tight in there, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we compromised and went with a 2-inch primary tube, and it took us, I think it was about 3 days to make those headers. Yeah, make the headers as far.
Start to finish and filming and doing all that stuff with it. That's about how long it took.
Yeah, so the big picture, it wasn't really long. We just started with that header builder kit, that that general kit. Eyeballed them and start cutting them, putting them together, fitting them up, and next thing you know, you've got a full set of headers there
that fit the truck.
Yeah, that are made specific for that truck. So that I enjoyed doing the headers and the exhaust on this because that's kind of our own personal touch. A lot of this stuff is off the shelf items, but those we made those ourselves here. So
then we got the slosh tub sitting here, which I mean they went together really easily.
Yeah, the inner fenders there. We showed y'all the factory inner fenders were rusted and they were pretty rough. And Slosh Tubs, that company, they make these inner fenders for these trucks and a lot of other trucks as well. As long as this filler panel right here to kind of just smooth out that engine bay. I love having a clean engine bay on all my vehicles there. So some other things under the hood, we went with manual brakes. Our brake master cylinder there. Notice there's no big booster. That ugly old booster, it's not in there. Went with manual brakes on this. And I've driven some cars before where if you dial in the whole braking system with a manual setup, it drives just as good, if not better, than a power brake setup.
Yeah, you don't need a booster if it's set up right.
Right.
And what's really tricky about this Bear master cylinder is you've got the front and the rear in one unit. So it really saves on space if you're limited on space on the firewall. Make plumbing easier.
They built in the proportioning valve to mount right here in the bottom on that master cylinder as well. Yeah.
Really tricky little piece.
So you can go out and drive it and get on the brakes. If you want to change the brake bias, just roll some in, roll some out, depending on how you feel. We put in the clutch pressure there. That's the neutral safety switch per se for a manual transmission. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, I don't need that. Well, I know not to start my car when it's in gear. Well, this thing is going to be going around the warehouse, going to shows. We're not going to be the only ones driving. Ultimately, it's probably going to find a home with somebody else. So we want to make sure there's some safety aspect there.
You got a youngster running around. He's like, oh, I want to go turn the key. Turn the key. It's in gear.
Yeah.
It won't go anywhere unless that clutch is pushed in. So
right, with a little safety there. So you would hate for somebody to accidentally hit the key and the thing lurks forward and run into something. You know.
Go into the living room.
Right. So that's a little safety touch that I'm going to make sure we had on that as well.
And the other pretty trick piece on this truck is that Flaming River drop-in rack and pinion. I mean, it's a pretty cool piece.
Yeah, so we converted the steering linkage on this from the old school parallelogram setup where you had the drag link, pitman arm, and everything like that to this Flaming River setup to make it rack and pinion, power rack and pinion. So, you know, I think we saw some people were asking about, can they sell that for a K1500?
Yeah. I don't believe they do.
Yeah, they've specifically listed this as the C1500, which is the two-wheel drive flavor. The K1500, that designation is for four-wheel drive.
Straight axles.
It's a different front end. So this one with Flaming River, if you got a two-wheel drive from, I think, 88 to 98, that's going to be a perfect setup for you. It went in easy. You know, we plumbed the lines, had to make our lines there, but it's pretty straightforward there. Another thing we heard about was the headlights, and that's pretty funny. So these headlight assemblies,
they do look good.
Yeah, you know,
really good.
I wanted to get something that matched kind of the dark setup. There's kind of the smoke deal, and there's nothing special. They were like $100 for the whole setup. You know.
Now. Yeah, they're not the brightest on the planet, but they look good. So
well,
if you're going for looks over function, I mean, it'd be a good setup.
We just got a halogen bulb in it as well.
So is that the problem?
Yeah, you could put a LED or something a little bit brighter and to offset that. But yeah, these headlights, they were $100 for the whole set, the markers and everything. We didn't, you know,
pretty good deal.
Yeah, we didn't really do anything special with that. But you know, the emblem, this was kind of a last minute deal. The emblem here, this is just a GM emblem. But when we did the vinyl, I said, hey, can you guys run some vinyl around that? So before we put that on there, the same vinyl as far as the stripe on the side of the truck there, got them to wrap that emblem with that. Now, the stripe, what's the name of that?
Luscious Lips.
Luscious Lips. That's pretty interesting when we went down there to get the vinyl on there. That's the name of it. It's got a metallic.
Yeah, there's actually a metallic. Yeah. It is the right light. But it's a good color. It pops when it's outside.
Yeah. But, you know, my whole thing with that was that whole Camaro stripe, you know, sort of deal. So to get that SS stripe on, that kind of hockey stick stripe, and something I haven't really seen exactly like that. I've seen some variations, but that's spot on for what we were going with for that truck. This is the later model grill, so it's an 89 truck. But that grill is like for the newer, like 95, 96, 97.
And it basically bolts right into place.
Yeah.
There's a couple spots that are a little different.
But it's an easy conversion.
Yeah. It's not hard.
And
the same with the bumper.
Yep, that's a different bumper with the air dam on the bottom there. So you might look at it and say, oh, that's a 95 or 96. Well, yeah, that's the grill and the bumper on it, but it is it is an 89 truck. So, and then moving around, what else we got in there? The radiator hose. Let's see here, Anthony. What can you tell them about the radiator hose?
Well, the radiator hose is pretty much what we had to use at the time. It could definitely be a little prettier. This is basically just got a couple of the gates clamps that are similar to this, and there's just a piece of solid pipe in there with the bead rolls on the end. And yeah, it could be a little prettier, but it's what we had, and it's what's on the truck. So.
Yeah, and it's neat. You know, the radiator, this radiator is cold case radiator for this make and model truck, and it has, I believe it's an inch and a quarter, inch and a half opening. So when we got to thinking, oh man, the big block's gonna be making a lot of heat. You know, we probably need to make that a bigger line for that, but we'll see how it goes. And this thing has run super cool. And we tested this thing. We drove it out in the middle of summer, so it was hot.
It was like 98 degrees, like 80% humidity.
Yes.
I mean, it was hot.
It was hot.
We were in Nashville driving around the city.
Yeah, so. Stop and go traffic, and this thing stayed cool. It never. Of course, as builders, you're always paranoid. What's that? What's that noise? What's that? Look at the gauges. Look at this. What's the oil pressure? What's the water temp? As you were driving it. But this thing stayed cool. It never had a chance of getting hot.
So the radiator hose does work. May not be the prettiest,
yeah,
but it works.
It works. There is a thermostat in there. We've got, I think it's a 190, 195 thermostat in there. But yeah, it stayed cool. We never had any issues with it even thinking about getting hot.
You guys talk about the compressor.
The compressor for the air conditioning. Yeah, so this front drive is from March. Yeah, this front drive setup's from March. It is there. That is the air conditioning compressor. But if you notice, there's no lines going to it. Yeah, we elected not to set up the air conditioning for this.
Everything's still on the firewall. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
The evaporator, everything's underneath the dash.
Everything's still there. The control panel, all that still works. So if somewhere down the line somebody wants to hook up the air conditioning, hook up some lines.
Kind of regret not doing that because rolling on the track and sitting there, this thing gets hot.
It would have been fun with air conditioning, driving around when we did the payoff for it. Just something we elected not to do at this time. Could we do it down the line? Sure. Everything's there.
Again, going back to the time.
That time, yep.
Seats and rims.
All right, so the interior. Let's look at the interior there. I'll go around the other side. You want to stay on this side?
You got the whole TMI setup: door panels, dash pad, seats. I forget what is the name of the.
It's the Cruiser Collection from TMI. We went to. You go on their website and you can create your own package, your own design with colors and materials, and
they have a whole designer that you can go in there.
And you can build it. And you can build it there. But this is their one of their entire packages. There, we went with obviously the black vinyl, the red stitching to kind of play off the red on the engine, the stripe, things like that to make it match.
They have a carpet kit as well, and that's what we use. It comes in 3 pieces. It's pretty easy to install.
No, yeah, this whole kit from TMI was super easy.
It was one of the easier things we did on the truck.
The seat frame, the seats are very comfortable. I love the way the seats feel driving around.
These big old bolsters.
Right.
It keeps you locked in.
Yeah.
And all the plastic, all this stuff, this was all blue because this truck had blue interior. So we ended up just dyeing all that. Or not, actually, what did we spray on that? Transtar?
The hot rod black.
Hot rod black from Transtar.
On the plastic, and then the vinyl, like the glove box is kind of a soft vinyl there. Was the vinyl paint. Yeah. But yeah, the interior, that's the factory dash. We did the TMI cover on it. But then the A pillars there, the B pillar there, we painted all that stuff black.
The classic instrument gauges.
Yeah, so there was a question about the instrument panel. So that is from classic instruments there, but you have to reuse your lens cover.
Lens and then your bezel surround deal. You had to reuse that as well.
Right. So you had to reuse the factory that we had. When I bought this one, when we got this one, notice it's got the Prindle switch on the front there. So yeah, it's actually for an automatic, even though this is a manual. Now it works completely the same, and we actually still have the provision on the column if somebody wanted to put it back to an automatic. It's there.
I don't know why you would.
No, right. But it was just a matter of that's the one that we got, and we put it in there, and it operates just the same, as far as that park reverse neutral drive switch on there.
But yeah, TMI stuff's really top-notch.
And what about the wheels?
US Mag, baby. I don't remember what the name of the wheel is though.
It's their OBS 454. So if you can go to their website and search OBS 454, and that's the wheel that's going to come up. Now these wheels, obviously, they're playing off of that old school 454 SS factory wheel, the one that was a 15-inch wheel. But when so that's where the inspiration.
It's a 20 by 10 in the rear, and then it's a 20 by 8.5 or 9.
20 by 9, I believe, in the front, and then 20 by 10 in the back. This is the cast version, and they also have
US Mags. They make a billet version of this, and you can get any offset you want.
Right.
So, but that one's a little bit more pricey, but their billet wheels are really nice.
Yeah. You can change. You got more flexibility on making it more custom. This is a off-the-shelf part number for them with this there. So
you can go to Summit. You can buy a box from them, ship to your house.
Yep.
What else we got? I want you to start it up.
Want to start it up?
Well, let's get through this. Maybe we will at the end.
Yeah. Well, one thing, you can't start it up unless you have what?
The clutch pushed in?
Well, that and a battery. So
let's talk about this battery. I'm going to let Mike take the lead.
All right. So we put the battery in the back. You know, we had a lot of people say, why would you put the battery in the back, sort of deal. And we can open up the bed cover here, roll it up. So yeah, the battery is in the back in a battery box. Now, I wanted to get the battery out from underneath the hood to clean up the engine bay. And then obviously the logical place would put it in the back. Now, I'm a drag racer, so I'm always thinking about weight balance and where to put things, reposition stuff to get more traction and balance of the vehicle there. So it's very common, you know, for a lot of drag racers and people to relocate the battery to the back. So that's why I put it in the back. Now, could we have hung it from the frame rail? Could we put it? Yeah, we could put it in a lot of different places. But this kit is something you can go down here to AutoZone and get that box and get the cables and get the retainer. You can get it very cheap. I think it's less than 40 bucks. I don't know. But it's very attainable for anybody at home. You know, building these things, it's a balance of making stuff really cool and then actually practicality. So yeah, we may be outlandish with the engine, but we still need to make some stuff that's more practical. So yeah.
I will say this, on the next truck it's going on.
Yeah, we've already looked at that. The next truck, we're going to move it just to make it different. But yeah, the battery in the back, it achieves relocating it out of the hood. We get the better weight balance. But the other thing too is we knew we were going to put a bed cover on this, so we're not worried about it being exposed. We're not worried about hauling lumber with this. We're not going to go to the landscaping place and get a load of gravel. So we can put a battery in the back. The fuel neck, the fuel filler is in the bed floor as well. That's one of those things, a balance with these TV vehicles is you have to get your time where you can. So could we have made a special fuel filler neck that came out the side or what? Sure, that's just more time it takes. You know, like I said, it's just the balance that we have to do doing these shows.
Yep, time constraints.
But it works perfect. It works perfect. So
gets us down the road.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and put this on here first. And that just snaps down.
And speaking of this is a rough country. I don't remember where we got this, but they're about 200 bucks, and they're a real nice piece.
The bed cover. Yeah, that bed cover there.
It reminds me of the old tonneau covers, like back in the 90s.
Right. Yes.
They don't snap.
Yeah.
I remember that I used to hate having to snap these because it was kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, we just wanted to tie that off. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the bed as far as when you're building a truck. You go to a wood floor. It could be a steel floor that you body, sand and fill and make it all fancy on the inside. But once again, we just wanted to go with what would the guy at home. I mean, my truck, I've got a tonneau cover on mine at home. Both my deals. So it's just very common and it looks good. So that's why we went with a bed cover and the battery in the back there. The fuel neck sticking out of the floor works fine. Could we have made it different? Yeah, of course we could have made it different. It's just time. It's something that we're constantly having to battle here to make shows, but also build some good stuff.
Then we got our tailpipes coming out here, and the rear mufflers that's on this truck, they're neighbor haters from Black Widow. And that's why they're so it's loud either with the boom tubes or the exhaust coming out the back.
Yeah.
The Black Widow neighbor haters. I mean, it doesn't do much, but it does like change the tone a little bit.
It changed, yeah, definitely. It changes a little bit of a tone, especially when you get on it.
Yeah.
When you get on it with the coming out the boom tubes, it's just got that sound like the old stock car sound as they're ripping. When we were ripping it at the Fairground Speedway, some people were talking about, why are we going so slow at the round track? Well, so the Fairground Speedway is in the middle of a neighborhood. Yeah. All right, so
apartment buildings right behind it.
Right, so they've got to be friendly to their neighbors. They were very nice in letting us come to the track and making a few laps around the track. And they said, hey, y'all can go out there, make a few laps, get your shots. Just try to keep it under 55 miles an hour. Obviously there's insurance things, there's not pissing off the neighbors, things like that.
We didn't want to do that.
Right, so we had to keep the speed down. We weren't wearing helmets, things like that.
So that's when we say we would have liked to have this thing wide open.
Yeah, I mean, we were second, third gear, but I was definitely wanting to go a whole lot faster.
It took a lot of restraint not to do that.
Yeah. So, any more questions? Got all the questions there. I hope we have covered, a lot of stuff with you today. I'm glad y'all tuned in to check this out. The truck, it's been spot on. We've driven it around a lot, for the filming of it, but also for breaking it in, things like that.
Yeah, so I can highly recommend if you're looking for a 632, buy one. I mean, it's an awesome engine. It's got so much torque everywhere. I mean, I think I'll be owning one.
Right. Yeah. So. It's a good application there. It's a good engine. And it's something that you can modify to make. Maybe you want to go solid roller. Maybe you want to put different heads or whatnot. You can go for it. 1,000 horsepower is very attainable these days. So that's it for the truck. Make sure you tune in to the PowerNation TV YouTube channel, and you can get the full build. That's where they take all the episodes and put it together in one video there, so you can watch it from start to finish. Or you can go back and watch each individual show, depending on your flavor there, right?
I think Dirt and Trail just, our buddies down the road here, they just came out with a new video.
Dirt and Trails has a new video out. Yeah, the new video out today on the Kaiser. The Kaiser. This thing, it rolled in here to the shop, and it's big, it's heavy, and it's been out in the weather. So they've got a lot of work ahead of them as far as like rust repair and the engine and stuff like that. But they're hard at work. They have a new show out today on YouTube. Go check that one out. Let them know what you think. And then us here at Music City Trucks, well, as you can see in the background, we've got our C10 build that we're hard at work on. We've got a couple more episodes that are going to hit the PowerNation YouTube channel here in November. I believe we've got 2 more shows coming out. And then we still got a lot of work to go on this C10 there.
Yes, we do. Well, we better get back at it.
Yeah, let's get back to work. Thanks for tuning in.
Light this thing off?
We'll send you off a little 632 sounds from the tailpipes.